We stand today on the edge of a new frontier, the frontier of the 1960s, the frontier of unknown opportunities and perils.
1960 was the dawn of a new decade and a new era of politics in America. For the first time, a new generation of candidates was in the race for the White House, a generation of World War II veterans.
I accept your nomination for President of the United States.
Richard Nixon was a Republican favorite for president in 1960. Having served the past 8 years as vice president to Dwight Eisenhower, Nixon was one of the most visible political figures in the U.S.
Mr. Nixon may feel that it's his turn now, after the New Deal and the Fair Deal. But before he deals, someone's going to cut the cards.
Massachusetts Senator John F. Kennedy was the darling of the Democratic Party. After winning the party's nomination, he set out on an aggressive campaign that focused on the economy and downplayed the fact that he had only served a few years in the Senate.
Mr. Nixon has said recently that parties don't count. What counts are the men. But I think what counts are the kinds of parties and the kind of men that those parties produce.
A turning point in the election of 1960. Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy meet in Chicago for the first ever televised presidential debate.
I think the question before the American people is, are we doing as much as we can do? Are we as strong as we should be? Are we as strong as we must be if we're going to maintain our independence?
I think we disagree on the implication of his remarks tonight and on the statements that he has made on many occasions during his campaign to the effect that the United States has been standing still.
The debate drew the largest television audience in history to that point, and voters focused on what they saw, not what they heard. That was costly for Nixon, who appeared on television to be tired and drawn, especially next to the youthful-looking Kennedy. By the end of the debate, pollsters had the pair running in a dead heat, and it would remain that way until November 8th.
From Election Central in New York, NBC News reports Election Night 1960, presented by the full reporting staff headed by Chet Huntley and David Brinkley.
We're trying to settle here so far without any success, or without enough success, one of the closest elections in the history of the United States.
It was a cliffhanger. Senator John F. Kennedy had edged out his Republican opponent by just 118,000 votes out of almost 69 million that were cast. A crushing defeat for Nixon. In the early morning hours, he went before his supporters at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles.
If this trend does continue and he does become our next president, that he will have my wholehearted support and yours too.
Nixon's supporters wanted him to contest the close election, but the following day he acknowledged that it was over. He had been defeated. The books were closed on the 1960 election, which would go down as one of the closest in American history. It was the last time the American public elected a U.S. senator president. For more on the election of 1960, including full speeches and parts of NBC's broadcast from election night, browse through the playlist to the left. Also, be sure to check back here soon. Another turning point in American politics, the election of 1968. I'm Tom Brokaw.